"You just assaulted a royal guard," someone shouted as laughter echoed through the palace courtyard. The young martial artist stood frozen, his hand still extended from the accidental strike. Everyone around him had burst into mock applause, some even laughing, as the guard stumbled backward, clutching his jaw. But when the queen rose silently from her seat, everything changed. Arman had been invited to perform a traditional martial arts demonstration during the Queen's Jubilee celebrations, a symbol of unity between cultures. Dressed in a black jai, he moved like liquid steel, his every motion honed by 2 decades of rigorous discipline. The guards were instructed to remain stoic, statuesque, during the performance, but one, a particularly stiff man named Lieutenant Rowan, stood a bit too close during Arman's final kata. It was a lightning-fast elbow strike meant to slice the air, not a real blow. But Rowan had leaned slightly forward at the wrong second. The strike landed. Not hard, but enough to draw gasps and then chuckles from the crowd of diplomats and nobles who assumed it was part of the act. Until the guard stumbled. Until the queen stood. Everything fell silent. Arman's heart raced. He immediately bowed, both as apology and respect. "It was not intentional," he said, breath trembling. He moved into the line of fire. But no one cared. His moment of honor had turned into perceived humiliation for the crown. Whispers spread. Did he mean to strike him? Was this a political statement? He's not even from here. Why let him perform? He was escorted off the stage by palace security, not in handcuffs, but with no warmth either. As he waited in the marbled side hall, watching the royal banners sway gently in the wind, all he could think of was his father. Back home, Arman's father had been a master of both combat and character, a quiet man who taught him that power is nothing without dignity. Arman was the first from his family to ever be invited to the palace. It was meant to be a bridge between generations, an offering of art and tradition. Instead, he'd struck a symbol of royalty and become the center of a looming scandal. Then came the unexpected knock. It was not a guard or a lawyer, but the Queen's personal assistant. "Her Majesty wishes to speak with you." Alone. He entered a small chamber where the Queen stood by the window, staring at the palace gardens. She didn't look at him at first, just spoke. "They laughed," she said. "Did you hear them?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Arman replied quietly. "I didn't," she continued, "because I was watching you." She turned now. Her gaze was piercing, but not angry. "You moved with great honor. The guards stepped into your form, not your fault. But this court, they see what they want. A moment like this? It becomes a headline before it becomes a truth." Arman bowed his head. "I never meant—" "I know," she interrupted, "but knowing isn't enough. Perception must be corrected, and I have a task for you." She stepped aside and motioned to the center of the room, where the same guard, Lieutenant Rowan, now stood. Still rubbing his jaw, but less rigid than before. "You will face him again," she said, "before the entire court. But this time not as a performer. As an equal." "What do you mean?" Arman asked, confused. "A duel," she said simply. "Symbolic, staffs only, no winner, just truth." That evening the courtyard was repurposed. No costumes, no fanfare, just 2 men barefoot on stone. The Queen watched from her throne, not as ruler, but as witness. The duel was intense, but not violent. Every clash of the wooden staffs echoed like thunder. Arman didn't fight to win. He fought to show control, precision, discipline, each move an apology written in the language of movement. Rowan, surprisingly, mirrored the tone. No arrogance, just respect. The final exchange ended with both staffs locked mid-air, frozen in mutual stillness. Then Rowan stepped back and bowed deeply. The Queen rose again. But this time the entire court stood with her. "Let it be known," she declared, "that misunderstanding is not corrected with punishment, but with demonstration. Today we saw grace under fire, and a reminder that truth deserves its stage." The crowd applauded, not out of obligation, but out of awakening. Arman didn't smile. He simply bowed, deeper than ever before. As he left, a young palace servant ran up to him. "Everyone laughed when you hit the guard," the boy whispered, "but nobody laughed when the Queen stood up." Arman finally smiled, not for validation, but because the boy was right. So it's not your mistakes that define you, but how you rise when everyone's watching. If this story touched you, subscribe the channel and hit that like button and drop a karma in the comments below.